Hi everyone, it's MJ, and a few days ago I had the privilege of interviewing Farzam Ehsani, who is the co-founder and CEO of a cryptocurrency exchange here in South Africa called VALR. Now this guy is super smart. He studied economics at Berkeley, he was a consultant for McKinsey, and he worked at Rand Merchant Bank. He's actually done a lot more, and I've put a link to his LinkedIn profile page in the description below, so make sure you go check that out. But what we're going to be doing in the very first video is just talking about how he managed to raise over $1 million to start this awesome project. So let's get into it. So first off, welcome and thank you for agreeing to do this podcast with me. Like I said, there will be a description in the video below about your podcast that you did with Gray, where you spoke about your financial philosophy and your career journey so far. And I must say, I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to put that link in the description, and all the people who are watching this, I recommend that you go check it out. But with you, I want to jump straight into it, and I want to come and hit with a nice meaty question, because I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs potentially watching this video. And I did read in one of the reports that you guys raised $1.5 million for a startup, which is pretty amazing. And I guess the first question is, how did you do it? Did you have an amazing business plan? Was it because of your network? Or what was the secret sauce to raise so much money for a startup?
Great. So first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. It's great to be here. And to dive right into that question, I think it's a combination of things that you just referred to. So we raised $1.55 million in total from two primary investors. One was Michael Jordan, so your name but with two A's at the end. And he, for those that don't know, he is the former CEO of FNB, First National Bank here in South Africa, part of the First Rank Group. And he really did a fantastic job with FNB, making it actually one of the most... They got an award for being the most innovative bank in the world under his tenure. So he was one of them, and then the second investor was Bittrex, cryptocurrency exchange. And I think with Michael, I had known him from before starting VALR, and we had a couple of conversations, and we had like a 10-page pitch deck, which kind of outlined what we were trying to do. And he, I think based on our relationship, he decided to invest, and that wasn't a very lengthy process because we had known each other from before. But that's quite different to the investment from Bittrex, where we had never ever met them. They didn't know us. We had never met them. There was no relationship beforehand. And actually, we just reached out to them and said, listen, we hear you're having partnerships with other cryptocurrency exchanges around the world. Are you interested in chatting to us and seeing if we can get into a partnership? And that was my co-founder that initiated that discussion. And effectively, long story short, tens of conversations and the business plan, and not just the pitch deck, but actually an in-depth written business plan. Later, after that, I got onto the plane and actually went to Chicago, and we had a 1-hour breakfast meeting in a hotel in Chicago, and sealed the deal then. So really, we've only spent 1 hour in person with our major investor, which is Bittrex. But I think that did a lot of their own due diligence on us. So really two very different processes for our two main investors, but we were very lucky, as you said, to raise just over $1.5 million for an idea that we had. And hopefully we've done some good things with that money, so we can come back to that in some of the future questions.
Congratulations. I mean, that is an achievement in itself. And I mean, coming, because you say you've got these two different investors. I mean, for the entrepreneurs out there, what would you say your general investor looks for in an entrepreneur? Is it passion? Is it experience? Is it qualification? Is it having that relationship? What are some of the things that unite an entrepreneur to an investor in a business environment?
I mean, I think ultimately it comes down to having faith in the capacity of an individual who's leading a business to actually make it work. That could come down to experience. It could come down to just grit or integrity, or there's a whole bunch of things, I think, characteristics that investors are looking for. But ultimately, it comes down to belief in the individual. Can they do what they say that they're going to do, and do you believe that they're actually going to be able? And whether it's through their own experience or their ability to represent, there are many reasons and ways that can happen, but I think it does come down to that belief. And I think, especially with some of my conversations with the investors, oftentimes they didn't spend too much time on the legal framework.
Mm-hmm.
We've actually secured another investor now that isn't public information. I can't say too much about the investor, but we've just raised a little bit more money as well, which you're the first person actually that we're telling this to.
Perfect.
Yeah, so part of the press, but unfortunately it's not public information. Who the investor is, but in the future maybe we will disclose that. But based on these discussions, it's been interesting to me to see how, seasoned investors will say, listen, you have the legals in place. You have to have the legals in place, but that's basically really as a backstop if things go really wrong, and just to make sure people understand what the terms are of the investment. But ultimately, it really comes down to, do I believe in this individual? If yes, let's do it. If no, let's go and find somebody else I believe in.
Okay. It's interesting because, from our actuarial backgrounds, we've always been taught to, look at risk, and if the return for the amount of risk you're taking on is, acceptable, then it's a green light. But of course, that's very much an academic or theoretical way of doing things. It's interesting hearing how people, fall back to belief, and I guess there's a little bit of gut feeling as well, which, is this person able to do what they're able to do? It's a bit of a subjective, especially when, let's say, you're only having a 1 hour breakfast with these people, they need to make those calls. So it's interesting hearing about that.